Hello, today I want to show off my turbo diesel motorcycle project. Got my little helper right here, so let's get after it. So the donor bike is a 1998 Honda CBR 600. Now I chose this bike because it was cheap, it had a clear title, and the engine was bad, so I didn't feel bad about cutting it up. As you can see from the gas tank, this bike's been through some better days. I intend to make a cafe racer out of it once I have everything figured out. The engine is a 2-cylinder Yanmar diesel out of a Thermo King APU unit. It's rated at 14 horsepower and weighs 185 pounds, so it's unlikely that this bike will be very fast. We're going more for a cool factor. Now I'm adding a turbo and I'm turning up the fuel pump, so I hope to get a few more horsepower out of this engine. Now here's the bike mostly stripped down. I'm getting ready to start trying to put the engine in. After in and out about a dozen times, I finally figured out how I was going to fit the engine in there and got the motor mounts built. At this point, I was starting to regret not starting with a bigger bike. From this top view, you can see just how tight it is between the engine and the transmission. I had to find a shorter oil filter to make it fit. Over here on the right side, this is my drive mechanism to the transmission. Now these two clutches are welded together. I'm going to be changing this up quite a bit, but right now that's the alternator down there on the bottom, and I have an idler, and then that middle sprocket is the one going into the transmission. I went with 2 centrifugal clutches to hopefully be more durable. For the transmission, I was able to chop the 6-speed transmission off the original CBR engine. This was originally a pressure lube transmission, but now I grease packed all the bearings and the gears and the housing. I had to build block-off plates to cover up the holes of where the engine used to be and the oil pan. This transmission had a manual clutch, but now it will function as a semi-automatic. I have 2 batteries mounted under the seat. I originally had just 1 battery, but it really struggled to crank the engine. I'm using the stock shifter and sprocket sizes right now. The dipstick's not in the greatest location. I had to run a low-pressure lift pump with this system. The front radiator is for a Suzuki motorcycle and the side radiator is for a Polaris 4-wheeler. I didn't have room to add a fan to the front radiator, so I added this side radiator so I could fit a fan. This is a tiny cheap eBay turbo. I don't have it all plumbed up yet, so I haven't got to test drive it, so we'll see how it does. Between the radiators and the turbo, I actually have a lot of plumbing before the next test drive. Using a Pedialyte bottle as a fuel tank at the moment. I'm going to have to rebuild the front forks with some stiffer springs due to the weight of this engine. The seals are leaking anyways. I have the first boost pipe installed down to the intercooler. Now I'm running an intercooler mainly because I'm afraid this cheap turbo is going to turn to shrapnel. I welded a bung in the oil pan for the turbo oil drain. You can see just how low the intercooler is sitting to the ground currently. Next I have a video of the very first test drive.